What is up, bros? Josh here, and today's video is all about the Tier 8 Royal Navy Destroyer, the Cossack, and if it's worth it or not. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. You could have actually gotten the ship for very cheap, $1 or $2, when the Royal Navy event was going on, but I will look at this ship for a full price if you are purchasing it from the premium store, and my thoughts on whether or not it's worth it. Now, things we're going to look at, we're going to look at the stats of the ship, also some gameplay, and kind of show off how strong the ship can actually be compared to the other Tier 8 counterparts, which are actually extremely strong at this tier. Now to just break down the stats of the Cossack, and there's one ship that I'm mainly going to compare this ship to, and it's the other Tier 8 Royal Navy Destroyer for the tech tree line, which is the Lightning. Now the Lightning is also extremely good. I would even consider Lightning a little bit stronger in certain situations, but for a premium ship, the Cossack brings a little bit of a different play style with some of the things it has, especially the buffs it just got, and is also an extremely good destroyer. But I will compare it mostly to that. I'll also compare it to other things like the Lo Yang, even stuff like the Kid Benson's, and throughout this entire video. Breaking it down though, 18,000 life pool, that's actually pretty solid for this tier. If you compare it to something like the Benson, which is a tried and true ship, 18,200, something like the Lo Yang as well, 17,400. So you have a tad higher of what is known as being one of the strongest ships at this tier. Now, of course, something like the USS Kid, this is a full AA build, so it actually has a tad more life than this, which has a heal. It's tough to compare that life of the Cossack without a heal to something with the heal. The Kid tends to have a much bigger effective life pool, but still, 18,000, very competitive. Now, looking at the captain really quick, just so you know the values we are looking at. This is what I normally run on my Cossack, on my Lightning, and almost everything at this tier for Tier 8 destroyers, but priority target is the first thing I always grab as a DD. It gives you so much information. Last stand, survivability expert for the extra life, and a concealment expert. 14 points, I pick up radiolocation, and then come back, pick up superintendent for that extra sonar and smoke. It's not really needed for the smoke, but I do like it for having that extra sonar because you will be using them all the time. And then adrenaline rush. So this is pretty basic. Now with stuff like the Lightning, I actually really don't take superintendent. If you don't really want that extra sonar, you can easily take basic firing training because you don't really need 7 smokes. It's nice if you use them all the time. You can definitely farm more damage. But the main reason I'm taking it for is the speed boost and the hydroacoustic, since the ship is relatively slow, and just getting the extra hydro as well. But if you want to get a bit more aggressive, BFT actually isn't that bad. Looking at modules, very basic. It is definitely worth grabbing the coal if you have it and going into the arsenal and picking up the extra hydroacoustic mod. Definitely worth it, especially on this ship. Best part is you can rotate a captain in and out of this ship. But very basic, main armament mod 1. Don't want to lose those main batteries. Going into the arsenal, picking up that if you have it, or if you got one from a super container a long time ago. Aiming system mod 1, making those front turrets as accurate as possible, or those turrets in general. Rudder shift. Now, because you don't need damage control, rudder shift is just the way to go, and then concealment obviously going to be going there. For the main armament, there is 4 sets of 2. Now, comparing that to the Lightning, which is what we're going to compare this to the most, the Lightning has 3 sets of 2. So there will be some trade-offs when it comes to the Lightning versus the Cossack, and this is one of the big ones. Now, the Cossack has 4 sets of 2, so throwing out 8 shells at a time, and that's actually really effective because the alpha damage on these guns tend to be really high. One thing too, they are 120 millimeters, so I've noticed that you really don't need inertia fuse. That's one thing I get asked all the time, is if you need inertia fuse on these captains. You really don't, although once you get into the Jutland, the Tier 9, and the Tier 10, the Daring, you are going to need inertia fuse for the tech tree line. So with this being a premium captain, if you have it, it's not the worst thing in the world. You're going to tend to run a completely different build for the captain for the tech tree ships when you get to the higher tiers. But even at the Lightning at Tier 8, you don't need it there as well. So we won't be running that. But 120 millimeters, you're sending out 8 shells here, 6 for the Lightning. That gives that a tad of an advantage just overall DPS. The main battery is going to be 5 seconds on that reload. Again, that's without BFT, and with a max range of 11.9. It is a tad lofty, an 808 millimeters per second, but it is still doable. You don't need AFT. Torpedo tubes, this is one of the big trade-offs too. The Lightning has 2 sets of 4 at 96 seconds. This has 1 set of 4 at 66. This is one of the big buffs that it recently got. Every 66 seconds, you get 1 set of 4. Now, that's a bit underwhelming. It kind of has the same kind of late game problems that the Kid has, with only having 1 torpedo tube. That always, the later in the game or against bigger ships, that is a tad of a downside. But the best part is this ship does have the mass amount of smokes with 6 or 7 depending on what you're running, so you can farm a bit more damage. So you don't have quite the downside the USS Kidd does, so you can still farm with your main bats. But that is one of the trade-offs. You're trading for more guns, but for less torps. But you do have a very fast reload. This would almost label this ship as being overpowered, because you can definitely get those early torps on DDs. Also, of course, you have narrow spread or you have single spread. So if you want to be the single spread hero, you can do that. 10 kilometers on the torps, with the Lightnings only having 8 with 62 knot speed. AA isn't really anything to worry about or anything to really talk about, because it's so low. You're not going to be getting clear skies. Maneuverability, 36 knots, one of those slower ones at this tier. Turning radius, 610 meters. Rotor shift, 2.9 seconds. And one of the things that sets this and the Lightning apart is the insanely low detectability. 5.5 kilometer range is so low, it doesn't matter if this thing is bottom tiered. It is still one of the stealthiest ships. You are going to be right there with stuff like the Herakaze as well as the Asashio. Now they have gotten their guns buffed, mainly the Asashio, stuff like that. The IGN line I'm mainly talking about. Herakaze still can chunk you down, but having one of the lowest detections in the tier 8 matchmaking makes this ship extremely strong, and you can basically pick on lots of tier 10 ships. You're going to outspot a Shimakaze, and outspot even a legendary gearing. That gives you a big advantage even if you get bottom tiered. Doesn't matter. You always feel at home with this ship. Lots of high alpha damage. Really low detection makes you extremely strong. Let's dive into some gameplay. We'll kind of talk about it and just show how nasty the ship can be, especially when positioning is correct and getting into the right kind of style to just get big damage games. Now here we are in game with the Cossack, and one of the main things is to recognize what the ship actually is. And I would consider this ship a hybrid style destroyer, a DD hunting destroyer. And what I mean by that is IGN line tends to be a torpedo line. Now obviously there are a couple, there's a new split with kind of being more of a gunboat line, but overall IGN tends to be more focused in the past on its torpedoes, so you'd get most of your damage out of that. The Russian line tends to be, obviously that's a little bit different now because there are a bit more torpedo focused boats. They were more focused on guns, and the Germans, Pan-Asian, and the USN tend to be more focused on the hybrid style of being both guns and torps, and this is exactly what the Royal Navy line is as well, and that's exactly what the Cossack has done very well. It's a fantastic, and Wargaming has called these basically defensive destroyers, and what I mean by that is they lose the speed, but they have defensive tools to make them extremely good. Tends to be relatively fast guns that hit really hard. They have a long duration hydroacoustic, so it's a long duration, which almost 3 minutes, but it's very short range. So we're looking about 3 kilometers on that range. So it's not quite an offensive sonar, which you'd see in the German line. And even the Pan-Asian. So you'll see me, especially when I get close to a cap like this, you'll see me pop these all the time. Now, I almost exclusively am popping this thing if I'm anywhere close to where a DD is, because I'm always hunting for destroyers. And also, one thing to do with this ship is to break down what you're going against. So having that low detection, I'm not scared of a Farragut. I out-detect it by almost an entire kilometer. Low Yang, I still out-detect that, but I have to be worried about his sonar. Cossack, I'm right there. Lightning, I'm right there. So I have to be a little careful of where we're going. So obviously, first of all, breaking down the team that you're playing against, then 2, looking at the mini map. So we're looking at DDs. We have the Loyang over there. So that's actually kind of one of the DDs I wanted to go with that, or wanted to go against. The Cossack is over there. The Cossack, I'm sorry, everyone's going to yell at me in the comments now. So we're hoping it's the Farragut, or we're going to be going against the Lightning. That's one of the two. So always a good thing, especially when you're in a destroyer like this, is look at what DDs you're going against, and then look at which ships have radar. So the Chappie is the only ship they have that has radar, and the Chappie's over on C cap. So we can kind of get a little aggressive with this. I don't want to get too aggressive and push a corner and then die to a Farragut. That would be embarrassing since we play all these games on stream, but we still want to get this kill on this DD so we can clear out B. Using your low detection, though, is very crucial with this. And then getting into situations where you can start farming damage and start really giving your team vision and really just punishing other DDs. So radio location is very nice on this line. Again, you really don't need to have like a bunch of... You have points because you get so many smokes. That tends to be what you're taking Superintendent for, is to get extra smokes. Especially as a destroyer. With this one, you can kind of play a little bit more... I would say aggressive. I'm not the biggest BFT, so it's basic firing training, lowering your main, for destroyers, lowering your main battery firing rate. I'm not the biggest fan for destroyers. I think like you can get more value out of other stuff, and but with Royal Navy destroyers, it tends to be kind of high. Now, I'm assuming I'm going against, since I'm not, and the fair gets spotted over there, I'm going against the lightning. So this might kind of hurt a little bit, but I noticed that there is no real supporting shots for this guy, and he doesn't have survivability expert. So I have the health advantage, I have the DPM, and as you see, if you can get close, you can actually use the smoke relatively offensively. And what I mean by that is your penalty for firing in smoke is 2.7 kilometers, but you can see 3 kilometers. So if you get very, very close with math, there is a bit of a buffer there that you can go a tad try hard and actually spot stuff. But I mean, look at that alpha damage, almost a 4K salvo. That's 8 salvos, or that's 8 shells going in at once, and there's nothing that DD can do. And that's the kind of impact you can have instantly. We lost 0 life for killing a tier 8 destroyer. One thing to also really be careful with, and this has actually cost me, I've taken a couple torps because of it, and it takes a little while to get used to, with ships like this and the Royal Navy has kind of its own thing that it gets going. The acceleration is extremely quick. So be very careful with tapping that W button too quick, especially when trying to avoid torps, because you can run into some trouble with accelerating too fast and slowing down too slow. But again, we're watching this the Prince Idle Frederick. And if he pushes at the cap, then we'll have to prepare, because we don't really have any supporting shots. But we do want to focus on this Duca, because this Duca could cause us some problems, and we'll also focus on getting this cap as well. But one thing I want you to do is just watch the amount of alpha damage we're getting, and watch the amount of fires we get throughout this game. That can be the strength of this ship. And even, as I said, we're still getting lots of pen, even with those, even with those 120 millimeters. 120 millimeters tends to be kind of on that border of, and this was pretty funny. Gank was one of the viewers of the stream, and I had just gotten done with a couple bummer games because we lost all of our DDs so quick, as we can all relate to. And I said I wanted blood this game, so he felt bad that he was on the red team this game, and we made the enemy team pay for it at least. So again, with this, we do have a fast torpedo reload, very low detection, as you see right here. We would have been detected by almost every other ship at this tier, but we wanted to see if he was going to repair that one. He's a good player, so obviously he's not going to repair the one fire, but we do have those torps, so we want to rotate that. And again, as you can see, fast reloading smokes. We have a new smoke up already in 7 seconds. So he's going to rotate out, and we have no supporting shots. We do have the Lion, which is over here, but that Prince Eugen's focusing on the mass. But one thing we're going to look for is if something does give us spotting, we can smoke up again. Remember, that's one thing to do, and I see a lot of DDs do, is that they think spotting mechanics in this game are just magic, and they really aren't. So what you'll see a lot of destroyers do is something spotted, and they'll smoke up, and then it's no longer spotted anymore, and then you're kind of both sitting there with twiddling your thumbs because no one's doing the spotting. So always be sure that you have something that is spotting if you are going to smoke up. Feels bad, man. That's going to be a what? I think that's a triple fire. No, I think it's just the front two. So he knows he can't. He knows he's in a bad spot. He's pushing a ship that has single file torps. He's on fire, 2 fires, and he can't really do anything. If he reps, he's screwed too. So as you can see right here, the smoke does not last very long. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pick on him a little bit, wait for him to commit to a real turn. And if he does, there we go. He can turn in a little bit, but he's not going to avoid that at all. And that is a bummer for a gank. That's a triple fire on the Prince. And what a nice guy. He didn't even shoot at me. He's going for more damage, which is fair. So down he goes. We're going to take out the Lightning as well as him. And already we have an 8-minute Arsonist, which is pretty nice. And still right there, we'll start working on the next ship. Now, it does take a tad to get used to the firing arcs, but once you do, you'll bring them home, and you can just start wrecking things, even pretty close to max range. And already, again, we have our next smoke, so we can use it. So this is really important. One, being aware of your surroundings, map awareness, and getting into spots where you know your team is either spotting something. Your main role as a destroyer is to get spots and eyes for your team, so just be aware of that. Also, the Duca does have torps, so we have to be a little careful. And down goes the Duca. So we've done this whole thing we've done all this almost 70,000 damage, a cap, 2 kills, without ever leaving B cap. So I know a lot of people are very scared of going to B cap. Basically, everyone's really scared of just taking damage in this game, it seems like. So for us, to be able to hold down B cap and just kind of wait for their team just to really push into us, it's kind of been nice. And you really aren't scared of too many things. Obviously, radar is a bit of a bummer when you run into it, especially when a chappy rounds the corner. But even at 10,000, 11,000, you have a decent chance because of your, I mean, remember, you're shooting 8 shells every 5 seconds. That is a decent amount of DPM, especially when they don't focus on you. So if you can just get a fire, make them rep a fire, and kind of burn them down, you have that reload to really kind of put up a fight, even if you have to go guns for guns against some cruisers. Again, would we have had the same, you know, the main ship this is compared to is it's compared to the Lightning, and the Lightning is extremely strong as well. It's probably my favorite tech tree ship now. R.I.P. Benson, you had a good life. But the Cossack brings a bit more of just kind of, I would say, more aggressive, because you want to be more aggressive against other DDs. And once you are aggressive against other DDs, you can have some extremely good outcome. And actually, I just realized that this could have been a big kill game. We had a couple ships that were really close to dying, but you'll see how much fun we have kind of late game just farming the rest of the team. And man, this team made me work for this too. I didn't really realize that. You ever get into those situations where you feel like, man, this game's going pretty easy right now, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's really close. That's how this game kind of was. But I was gonna go help with the Cossack. Sorry. Oh man, the comments are gonna be filled with me pronouncing it wrong. I'm terrible with names in this game. But I figured that the 2 Bensons could take him down. I think he even kills one of our Bensons. I'm not sure. But down this guy goes. And it's really kind of okay. If you look at one thing, I feel when I'm playing this ship is I'm not really ever worried. I think he's getting picked on. So one thing you can always do too is kind of bait out a battleship, and what I mean by that is getting them to fire. So what I always call is I'll bait out the shot. If you bait out the shot, then they're spotted for a long time in smoke. So I think I even do that here. I think I missed these torps. So again, this is probably the only downside of this ship is only having the 1 torp launcher. But you do have a very fast reload on those torps, which is extremely nice. So that's basically the only downside. And if there's only one downside to a ship, you got a pretty gosh darn good ship. And also, he turned his guns, so we don't have to worry about it, and we're just going to open up on him. And we can even farm a tad of damage here. Again, the fire chance just seems nuts. I don't think Demo Expert, and he did the fatal error of repairing 1 fire, so you're going to see a Dunkirk go from 100 to 0 very fast. As you saw right here, I look to see where the Prince Eugen is. Now, obviously, I'm throwing torps pretty danger close to one of our friends here, and I'm aiming just a tad low, as you can see all the shatters. But I wanted to see if he was going to go around that island or in front. So we're going to throw those torps out. And then once he starts to turn, I think we're going to smoke up here and start farming some damage. Or maybe I wait to see if he misses. Now, there goes the smoke right there. And I know that he would still be spotted because that Prince Eugen is right there. And now you'll see us start ripping some damage with the AP. I always get a question. I tend to stick with HE because the alpha damage is so high. Did I not start ripping AP? I thought I did with him. And as you see, we have a really good spot right now. You can use and abuse the range for you and against you. Already almost 100,000 damage. And here you can start seeing the AP damage. Still extremely solid. You saw us against destroyers at almost 3,000-4,000 K a salvo. 3,000-4,000 K. 3 or 4,000 damage salvo on DDs. And you'll start seeing us just do some extra damage. Usually when a ship is on fire once or twice, I tend to switch the AP, especially if it's showing me such a broadside like that. We made quick work of them. So the rest of this game, again, even though it's kind of close actually, we're only up by a couple ships, by 2 ships right now, I still feel fine. Because against another Cossack, against the Low Yang, although I do have to play a little careful against the Low Yang because of the sonar, I'm still not too worried about it. But again, this team tried its best to make me work extra hard, but what it did is it just bought me more time to farm. So Lo Yang is right there. If they can kill him, then I know we're really good. Obviously, the Prince Eugen Torps and the Scharnhorst was kind of just a lock for us because I really wasn't too worried about going against those two DDs if I need to. And if they can just kill that, but just like that, we're 2-ship advantage to 1, and no one was shooting at the DD. But the best part about their other destroyer is he's extremely far north and basically out of the fight, and the Lo Yang's dead. So it's basically a guaranteed win. That guy, there's no way he could recover. He's going for damage instead of the win, which is fine for me. And we're waiting for this guy to repair. And again, we're going to farm that damage. 9 fires so far, but it is not over. This poor New Mexico. We will throttle jockey. And what that means, if you've ever heard that phrase, throttle jockey means playing with. Oh man, it's a bummer to see all those non-pens, but I think my aim was off just a tad. And it means you're playing with your acceleration, so you're trying to throw off where he aims, and you'll see him basically just completely whiff it. You're going to see him happen for a few salvos, so we're backing up right here too. He snags me once, and as you saw, I'd always bait the shot. That's what I was talking about tad earlier. And instantly on double fire. Very high fire chance, very good alpha damage. And we're going to start burning them to the ground. I think I did get a little greedy here and go for the front fire, which if we're going to back out really fast here, and we can get that. And there's the high caliber as well. And trying to get the spots on them. So we're watching those always to see if one of them goes out, because we'll start aiming for that. And I think I just get lazy. I think that's what I do here. And I debated right now, as you can see, somebody just charging him, but I didn't really have any faith in the team, although I wanted to keep as much life as possible. And I think somebody even brings it up that, like, oh, you should have just rushed him. And it's one of those, why risk it? Why risk taking a bunch of damage? What if I detonate? What if I do this? You know, why risk it when you don't need it? And as you saw, already up to 12 fires now. There's a Witherer. We had an Arsonist early, Witherer, high caliber. We also have that guy getting some extra damage. Almost 400 main battery hits. Again, this is going to be a mix of both main battery and obviously if it would have gone AP. And as you saw right here, somebody was watching me play. There's no reason to risk it if you don't need it. That's, you know, why would I risk potentially taking a bunch of damage if I'm not needed? I think I probably use HE too much on this ship in situations where AP would do it, so I always recommend using both ammo types. But again, look at that. Look at that game. We didn't quite get the crack, and I realized that we could have had a 6 or 7 kill game if we maybe focused a little bit more on the kill steal. But overall, this ship to me is one of my favorite destroyers to play, especially at tier 8. I think tier 8 is a fantastic tier. And the best part was, if you were playing during the Royal Navy event, you could have gotten this ship for like $1 or $2. So that, of course, was an amazing deal. But is it worth it total? Is it worth it overall? I find this ship to be totally worth it, especially if you enjoy. Oh, you know what? Hold that. And we're gonna find out what happens here. I think we get served up a Kraken. But is this ship worth it? I think so. If you enjoy playing destroyers, if you enjoy playing hunting destroyers or a hybrid destroyer, so you've enjoyed playing USN, Pan Asian, German, even the Royal Navy, and you're looking for a good Royal Navy trainer, this is fantastic. Now it does come with a tier 8 price tag, so that's up to you. Obviously, $1 for somebody could be nothing, $1 for somebody could be a lot, so do keep that in mind. But this ship will make you a ton of credits, a ton of XP, and it's extremely, extremely good. I think it's probably top 3 for this tier, with probably the Lo Yang as well as the Lightning. And as you see right here, this guy's going to service up the Kraken. So I kind of forgot about this until I remembered that the radio location kind of pointed it out. Also, the line is one of the newest lines, and it's just so good. If you enjoy playing destroyers like I do, this thing is just a slam dunk. It's so much fun. The only downside being that there's Confederate as well as 2 fires. The only downside being that that only having the single torp tube, but having a fast reload, it really does make up for it. So overall, this thing is awesome. It's an amazing buy. Again, if you're a DD player at all, you like this kind of play style, first of all, I would check out the Royal Navy line and just check out the Lightning. If you enjoy the Lightning, then you will definitely enjoy this ship. So, and also an amazing trainer as well. Amazing at everything. It's one of the best ones for the current grinding for the Prince Otto Frederick missions as well. So 900,000 credits. I don't think we're even stacked out for credits. I think we're stacked out for XP with all the flags right now. So that just shows how much you can make I think maybe like the Hydra was the only one that was giving credits there. I don't think we had Zulu or anything like that. But almost 850,000, 160,000 damage, a ton of XP, over 10k, 428 main battery hits, 5 kills, got the Kraken, 15 fires, so a fantastic mix of torps and main battery. Again, we spent almost the entire game at or near B cap. We didn't go to A cap. We didn't go to C cap. That's one thing you have to learn with these ships is they're relatively slow. So positioning is everything. Location, location, location. So really good game right there. A lot of fun, and we just got to farm. As I said earlier in the game, I wanted blood that game. Top of the team, 2,700 base XP. GG's to everyone that helped out on that game. And then obviously a good breakdown of all the damage. Lots of destroyer damage, and then lots of farming DDs. The key of this ship is to kill the enemy DDs and then burn the rest of the team down, and it does it extremely well. Is this ship worth it? I think so. I give it 2 thumbs up, and I hope you guys are enjoying it, especially if you could have got it for extremely cheap. But I still think it's worth it, even if you have to pay, even if you have to buy it out of the premium shop. But anyways, guys, that's it for me on this episode of Is It Worth It? I might do like a whole series of all the premiums, so let me know in the comments below what you guys want me to go over next on if it's worth it or not. Maybe you're thinking of buying a ship, because maybe I'll do that one next for you guys. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the Tier 8 Cossack, if you like it, if you enjoy it, or are thinking about getting it. That's it for me. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.